Lisa Collins stared out the large window of the ship USS Horizon. The massive space station of the Galactic Council grew larger as they approached. It was shaped like a giant wheel with spokes coming from the center, and it glowed with blue and white lights against the black of space. Hundreds of alien ships moved around it like fish in a pond. Lisa touched the silver pin on her uniform. She still couldn't believe she was here. Just 20 years ago, humans had discovered how to travel faster than light. Now, they were being invited to join the Galactic Council, a group of over 300 alien species that had kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. "Nervous?" asked Frank Martinez, the captain of their ship. He was a tall man with dark hair starting to gray at the temples. "Wouldn't you be?" Lisa replied. "I'm about to represent all of humanity to a council of aliens who think we're basically children." Frank laughed softly. "That's what bothers me. They've barely studied us at all." He was right. The council had sent one representative to Earth for just 1 week. The alien had looked at some books, watched some videos, and decided humans were adequately peaceful to join the council. They hadn't even asked about wars or conflicts. The council had put humans in Category 3, a developing species. This meant they saw humans as smart enough to travel in space, but still culturally primitive. The classification came with many rules: limited space for human ships watching over human military, and a 100-year trial period. "They think we're simple," Frank said, his voice low. "They think we're weak." "Let's hope they never need to find out how wrong they are," Lisa said. The ship docked at the station with a soft bump. Lisa gathered her papers and straightened her blue uniform. As Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, everything she did would set the tone for humanity's future in space. "Remember," Frank said as they walked to the exit, "they need to respect us." "I know," Lisa said. "But first we need to understand them." The door opened to reveal 2 aliens waiting for them. One looked almost like a tall, thin human but with blue skin and large eyes. The other was shorter with green scales and 4 arms. "Ambassador Collins," the blue alien said in perfect English. "I am Zeltor, your guide to the council. This is Mira, who will help with your stay." "Thank you for your welcome," Lisa said with a small bow. 20 diplomats and scientists stood behind her, the first humans to step onto the Galactic Council station. Zeltor led them through huge hallways filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange Lisa couldn't even guess how they thought or communicated. Floating creatures that looked like jellyfish drifted by. Something that seemed made of rocks and crystals walked on 6 legs. "The council has existed for 50,000 years, Zeltor explained as they walked. "We have not had a major war in over 30,000 years. Lisa nodded, impressed but also concerned. Earth had not gone even a century without some kind of war. "How many new species join each year?" she asked. "Very few," Zeltor said. "Perhaps 1 every century. Many species destroy themselves before they reach the stars." They arrived at a large room with a view of space. Inside were comfortable chairs and tables with food and drinks. "Your meeting with the High Council is tomorrow," Zeltor said. "Today, please rest and prepare." After the aliens left, Lisa turned to her team. "Thoughts?" Dr. John Baker, an expert on alien cultures, spoke first. "They're very confident, almost too peaceful. I'm not sure they understand conflict like we do." "They classified us without really studying us," added Maria Reyes, a historian. "If they had looked at our wars, our rapid development of weapons, would they still want us to join?" Lisa frowned. "We need this alliance. Earth needs the trade, the technology. But you're right, they see us as simple newcomers. They don't understand what humans are capable of when threatened." That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Earth's violent history. Humans had fought wars over land, religion, resources, and ideas. They had created terrible weapons, but they had also created art, music, and literature. They had built societies based on freedom and cooperation. Would the council see all of that? Or would they just see the primitive parts? In the morning, Lisa, dressed in her best uniform, and met with her team. Together, they walked to the council chamber, a huge room with seats for hundreds of aliens. At the center was a raised platform where the High Council sat, 7 aliens from the oldest species in the Alliance. As Lisa walked to the speaking area, she felt the eyes of the entire galaxy on her. This was humanity's first step into a larger universe. Everything she said would be recorded in history. "High Counselors," she began, her voice steady. "I bring greetings from Earth and all humans. We are honored by your invitation to join the Galactic Council. Humans have dreamed of meeting other intelligent life for centuries. Now that dream is real." The head of the council, a tall alien with white skin and 6 eyes, nodded. "Ambassador Collins, the Council welcomes Earth as a Category 3 developing species. We believe humans will learn much from the older races." There was that tone again, like they were talking to children. Lisa kept her face neutral. "We have much to learn," she agreed. "But we also have much to offer. Humans have a unique history and perspective." Yes, the council had said, not really listening. "All species believe they are unique. In time, you will see the common path all intelligent life must follow." Lisa wanted to explain that humans didn't follow common paths. They created new ones. They adapted. They fought. They survived. But she knew now wasn't the time. "We accept your welcome and your terms," she said instead. As the ceremony continued, Lisa exchanged glances with Frank, who stood behind her. They both knew the council was underestimating humans. They didn't understand what they were inviting into their peaceful galaxy. Lisa only hoped that the council would never have reason to learn just how dangerous humans could be when pushed. Because if that day ever came, the Galactic Council would regret not reading human history more carefully. It would be a very big mistake indeed. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Humans had started a small colony on a planet they named New Eden, about 20 light-years from Earth. It was a beautiful world with blue oceans, green forests, and mountains that reached toward the sky. 5,000 people now called it home. Lisa Collins sat in her office on the Galactic Council station. She had decorated it with items from Earth, a small plant, pictures of mountains and oceans, and a flag of the United Nations. A message appeared on her screen, marked urgent. When she opened it, her face went pale. "No," she whispered. She pressed a button on her desk. "Captain Martinez, please come to my office immediately." Frank arrived 5 minutes later. "What's wrong?" Lisa pointed to her screen. "The Zalari Empire has attacked New Eden." Frank's eyes widened. "Who are the Zalari?" "A species that isn't part of the Council," Lisa explained. "They control about 20 systems near our space. According to this report, they've sent ships to New Eden and demanded that the colony surrender." "Do we have military ships nearby?" Frank asked. Lisa shook her head. "Just one patrol ship, not enough to fight off the Zalari fleet." She looked at Frank with worried eyes. "I've called for an emergency meeting with the Council. They have to help us." 2 hours later, Lisa stood before the High Council. All 7 members looked concerned but not alarmed. "High Counselors," Lisa said, "I come before you in an emergency. The Zalari Empire has attacked our colony on New Eden. They threaten our people. We ask for the Council's help in protecting our colony." The head of the Council, High Counselor Thelmar, nodded slowly. "This is unfortunate, Ambassador Collins. The Zalari are known to test new species in the Council. They are bullies, but rarely cause lasting harm." Lisa couldn't believe what she was hearing. "They have threatened to bombard our colony if it doesn't surrender. Our people are in danger." "We understand your concern," another counselor said. "We will send a diplomatic message to the Zalari, expressing our disapproval. We will also apply economic sanctions." "Sanctions?" Lisa repeated. "High Counselors, with all respect, our colony needs protection now. We need military ships to defend New Eden." The council members looked at each other. "Ambassador Collins," Thelmar said gently, "one of the conditions of your Category 3 status is limited military action. You cannot send warships without Council approval." Then give us approval, Lisa demanded. Violence is not the council way, Thelmar explained. We have found that diplomatic solutions always work better in the long term. The Zilari will respond to economic pressure. I suggest you evacuate any colonists who feel unsafe while we negotiate. Lisa left the council chamber feeling angry and betrayed. She returned to her office where Frank and several other humans waited. They're not going to help, she told them. Just diplomatic protests and sanctions. That's it? Dr. Diane King asked. She was the head scientist for the human delegation. Lisa nodded. They've also suggested we evacuate the colony while they negotiate. Evacuate? Steve Wilson, the military attaché, almost shouted. That's our colony. We've spent years building it, and they won't let us defend it ourselves, Frank added. As a Category 3 species, we need permission to send military ships. Everyone was quiet for a moment. Then Steve spoke, his voice low but determined. What if we don't ask for permission? That would violate our agreement with the council, Lisa warned. Our people are in danger, Steve replied. The council doesn't understand what's at stake because they've never had to fight for their survival. Dr. Linda Hayes, a historian, spoke up. He's right. The council species have been at peace. So long they've forgotten what it means to defend yourself. They evolved together over millions of years. Humans had to fight for every advance. We developed technology alongside warfare. The council thinks war is primitive, Frank added. Something species grow out of. They don't understand that peace sometimes must be defended. Lisa thought for a long time. Finally, she looked up. We need to speak with Earth Command. I think I have an idea. 2 days later, Lisa stood before the council again. Hi, councilors. Thank you for your diplomatic efforts. Earth has decided to send humanitarian aid to New Eden while your negotiations continue. This is wise, Thelmar approved. What kind of aid? Medical supplies, food, comfort items, Lisa said smoothly. And of course, ships to evacuate colonists who wish to leave. All strictly civilian vessels, I assure you. The council approved the plan, and Lisa sent the authorization to Earth. 3 days later, 5 large ships left Earth for New Eden. On paper, they were listed as humanitarian vessels and transport ships. What the paperwork didn't show was that each ship carried hidden weapons and soldiers disguised as aid workers. In the cargo holds were fighters that could be quickly assembled. The communication equipment could jam enemy signals. It was called Operation Trojan Horse. When the human ships arrived at New Eden, the Zilari were waiting. The alien commander, Vax Thul, was big and reptilian with red scales and sharp teeth. His face appeared on the main screen of the lead human ship. Humans, he growled in the galactic common language. Your pathetic council cannot help you. We claim this world now. You may land and remove your people, then leave. Of course, replied Captain Alan White, who led the mission. We are just a humanitarian mission. We need 3 days to evacuate everyone. The Zilari agreed, thinking the humans were weak and afraid. They had never read human history. They didn't know about the Trojan horse, an ancient trick where Greek warriors had hidden inside a wooden horse to enter an enemy city. They didn't. No humans had been fighting wars and developing military strategy for thousands of years. As the first aid workers landed on New Eden, hidden communications went out to the colonists. The plan was in motion. While the Zilari watched the evacuation ships, human fighters were being prepared in secret. Special forces teams moved into position around the colony. On Earth, the real battleships were ready, waiting for the signal. The Zilari thought they were facing scared colonists and aid workers. They didn't know they were facing one of the most war-experienced species in the galaxy, and they were about to learn why the Galactic Council should have read human history. More carefully, it would be a lesson they would never forget. Vax Thul, the Zilari commander, sat on the bridge of his flagship. He was drinking a blue liquid from a crystal cup and laughing with his officers. Conquering the human colony had been easy. These humans were weak, just as he expected. All they did was send aid ships and evacuation vessels. They didn't even try to fight. These new council species are all the same, he told his second-in-command. They follow rules and talk about peace. They have forgotten how to fight. Yes, Commander, the officer agreed. The colony will be ours in 2 days when the evacuation is complete. A young Zalari rushed onto the bridge. Commander, our sensors are having problems. Vax Thul frowned. What kind of problems? We're getting strange readings from the planet, and 3 of our patrol ships have lost contact with us. Before Vax Thul could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered. The communication system crackled with static. What is happening? He demanded. Our communications are being jammed, the young officer said with fear in his voice. We can't contact any of our ships. On the main screen, a human face appeared. It was Captain Alan White, the leader of the humanitarian mission. But he wasn't wearing civilian clothes anymore. He was in a military uniform. Commander Vaxa Thul, Alan said calmly. This is Captain White of the Earth Defense Force. Your ships are now surrounded. You have 15 minutes to surrender. Vax Thul laughed. Surrounded by what? Your aid ships? The screen split to show the space around his fleet. 5 large warships had appeared from nowhere. They were human battleships that had jumped into the system while the Zalari sensors were being jammed. Vax Thul stood up, knocking over his drink. Impossible! Where did they come from? How did they get past our sensors? On the planet below, the aid workers were now in combat gear. The equipment they had brought in crates was not medical supplies but weapons. The refugee camps had been covers for military bases. For 3 days, while pretending to help evacuate the colony, the humans had been preparing for battle. The Zalari troops on the ground found themselves under attack from all sides. Their communications didn't work. Their sensors showed false information. They couldn't coordinate their defense. In space, the human battleships moved into attack positions. They were smaller than the Zalari ships, but faster and more maneuverable. They used tactics the Zalari had never seen before, attacking in patterns that confused the alien defenders. How are they doing this? Vaxa Thul shouted, as another of his ships reported heavy damage. What the Zalari commander didn't know was that humans had been fighting wars for their entire history. While council species developed technology for peaceful purposes, humans had always found ways to use new discoveries as weapons. When humans invented radio, they immediately used it for war communications. When they discovered nuclear energy, they built bombs. When they created computers, they made them into tools for warfare. Captain Alan White watched from the bridge of his ship as the human forces took control of the battle. He had studied military history all his life. The plan they were using combined strategies from ancient Rome, World War II naval tactics, and modern space combat theory. Sir, his communications officer said, the ground forces report that all Zalari troops have surrendered. Alan nodded. And the fleet? 3 enemy ships disabled, 2 trying to escape. Don't let them, Alan ordered. We need all of them to surrender. The human ships moved to block the escaping Zalari vessels. They fired warning shots across their paths. On his flagship, Vaxa Thul watched in shock as his mighty fleet was defeated by the supposedly weak humans. In just 12 minutes, his forces were either disabled or surrounded. How? He asked no one in particular. How did they do this? His communications officer looked up from his station. Commander, they're hailing us again. Captain White's face reappeared on the screen. Your time is up, Commander. Do you surrender? Vaxa Thul looked around at his damaged bridge, at his frightened officers. He had never faced an enemy like this. The humans had used tricks and tactics he had never seen. We surrender, he said bitterly. 2 days later, Lisa Collins stood before the Galactic Council again. The council members looked shocked and confused. Ambassador Collins, High Counselor Thelmar said, we have received disturbing reports about events at New Eden. It appears human military forces engaged the Zalari fleet. Lisa nodded calmly. That is correct, High Counselor. This is a serious violation of your Category 3 status, another counselor said. You deployed military forces without council approval. We deployed security personnel to protect our humanitarian workers, Lisa corrected. When the Zalari attacked our security teams, we defended ourselves. Security personnel? Thelmar repeated in disbelief. Reports indicate you had battleships and ground forces. Lisa smiled slightly. Our definitions may differ. On Earth, humanitarian missions in dangerous areas always include security. You defeated an entire Zalari battle fleet. A third counselor exclaimed. The Zalari underestimated our security capabilities, Lisa said. That was unfortunate for them. The council chamber broke into loud arguments. Some counselors demanded punishments for Earth. Others seemed impressed by what humans had done. Finally, Thelmar raised his hands for silence. Ambassador Collins, the council will need to discuss this incident. There are serious questions about human compliance with council regulations. Of course, Lisa said. While you discuss, I should inform you that Earth has established a permanent security presence at New Eden, for humanitarian purposes, of course. As Lisa left the chamber, she saw a small alien watching her. He was Krelva, the council archivist. Unlike the other aliens, he didn't look angry or shocked. He looked curious. You know, he said quietly as Lisa passed. I think it's time I learned more about human history. Lisa smiled. That would be wise. As she walked back to her office, Lisa thought about how the Galactic Council had misjudged humans from the start. They had called humans primitive because they still fought wars. They didn't understand that those wars had made humans experts at fighting and surviving. The Zalari had learned this lesson the hard way. Now the Council was beginning to understand too. The Galactic Council had made a big mistake by not reading human history. They were finally starting to realize just how big that mistake had been. Krelva had been the Council archivist for over 200 years. His office was deep inside the Galactic Council station, surrounded by the records of thousands of species from across the galaxy. As a member of the long-lived Dren species, he had dedicated his life to studying the histories of Council members. After the New Eden incident, Krelva couldn't stop thinking about the humans. They had defeated a Zalari fleet with surprising ease. How had such a young species developed such effective military strategies? Computer, he said to the air, access all records on human history. Warning, the computer replied. Human historical records are incomplete. Only basic information was collected during evaluation. Krelva frowned. That was unusual. Normally, when a new species joined the Council, their entire history was carefully studied. But humans had been admitted quickly with only a basic review. Request access to Earth information networks, Krelva said. For the next several days, Krelva barely left his office. He read Earth history books, watched documentaries, and studied military records. What he discovered shocked him. World wars, he muttered to himself. They had 2 global conflicts in just 30 years? The more he read, the more alarmed he became. Humans had been fighting wars continuously throughout their recorded history. Their brief, peaceful periods were often just preparation for the next conflict. Even more concerning was how humans used technology. Council species typically developed new technology for peaceful purposes first. Humans seemed to weaponize every discovery almost immediately. They discovered nuclear energy and built bombs within 3 years, Krelva noted in his report. They developed computer networks initially for military communications. Their first ventures into space were driven by military competition. Most alarming was the rate of human military innovation. Council species typically took centuries to adapt military doctrine. Humans did it between battles. In their World War II, they had completely changed how they fought in just 6 years. When Krelva finished his research, he sat quietly at his desk, considering what to do. This information could change how the Council viewed humans. It might even lead to humans being removed from the Council. But something else bothered him. Despite their violent history, humans had also created beautiful art, music, and literature. They had developed philosophies of peace and cooperation. They had formed global organizations aimed at preventing war. They were complex in a way most Council species were not. With a decision made, Krelva sent his findings to the High Committee of the Council. That same day, he received a summons to appear before them. The High Committee chamber was smaller than the main Council room. Only the 7 High Councilors were present when Krelva arrived. They sat in a semicircle, their faces serious. Archivist Krelva, High Counselor Thelmar, began, "We have reviewed your report on human history. Is this information accurate?" Krelva nodded. "Yes, High Counselor. I verified all sources carefully." "This is most disturbing," said Counselor Jax, a bird-like alien with bright feathers. "You say humans have fought more wars in their brief history than most council species have in their entire existence?" "That is correct," Krelva confirmed. "And they weaponize all technology?" asked another counselor. "Not all," Krelva clarified. "But they consider military applications for most major discoveries." High Counselor Thelmar's 6 eyes blinked slowly. "They've been at war continuously for their entire history. Their peaceful periods were merely preparation for the next conflict. And we classified them as primitives," added Counselor Jax. "We patronized them." "Worse," said Krelva. "We threatened their colony and told them not to defend it." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Counselor Thelmar spoke again. "We must decide what to do about the humans," he said. "This history suggests they could be dangerous to the peaceful order of the Council." Krelva hesitated, then spoke. "If I may, High Counselor, there is more to consider." "Speak freely, Archivist." "It's true that human history is filled with conflict," Krelva said, "but it is also filled with cooperation. After each of their world wars, they created stronger institutions for peace. They have art and philosophy dedicated to ending violence. They fight fiercely, yes, but often to protect others." Krelva displayed images on the room's screens. Earth's natural beauty, human art, families playing in parks, doctors helping patients. "Most importantly," he continued, "humans change rapidly. The species that fought their world wars is not the same species that reached the stars. They've learned from their violent past. Yet they still deceived us," Counselor Jax pointed out. "They hid military forces in aid ships." "Because we didn't give them a choice," Krelva replied. "We told them they couldn't defend their people. No human leader could accept that. Their history has taught them that sometimes force is necessary against those who only understand force." The High Counselors talked among themselves quietly. Finally, Thelmar turned back to Krelva. "Thank you for your insights, Archivist. The committee will deliberate further. You are dismissed." As Krelva left the chamber, he wondered what would happen next. Would the Council expel humans, or would they learn from them? Meanwhile, in her office, Lisa Collins was preparing to return to Earth. After the New Eden incident, many Council species were wary of humans. Some had even called for Earth to lose its Council membership. Her computer chimed with a message. It was from Frank Martinez. "The battleships performed better than expected," he wrote. "The Zalari never saw us coming. Earth Command wants to know if we should prepare more ships. They're worried the Council might take action against us." Lisa sighed. She had hoped joining the Council would mean peace for humanity. Now they were preparing for more conflict. Before she could reply, her door opened. Krelva stood there looking nervous. "Ambassador Collins," he said. "May I speak with you?" Lisa gestured to a chair. "Of course, Archivist. What can I do for you?" Krelva sat down carefully. "I've been studying human history," he said. "I've learned much about your wars and conflicts." Lisa's face showed no emotion, but inside she felt a chill. This could be bad for Earth. "I've also learned about your art, your music, your efforts for peace," Krelva continued. "You are a complex species, Ambassador. More complex than we realized." "All species are complex," Lisa said. "Yes, but humans are complex in a unique way," Krelva replied. "The Council species achieved peace by evolving slowly, over millions of years. Humans are trying to achieve peace despite evolving quickly, with technology developing faster than your cultures can adapt." Lisa looked at him with new interest. "You understand us better than most Council members?" Krelva nodded. "The High Committee is meeting now to discuss Earth status. I believe they are beginning to understand too." As he left, Lisa felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps the Galactic Council was finally starting to see humans for what they truly were, Not primitives, playing with technology, but survivors who had clawed their way to the stars despite their violent nature, not because of it. 1 year had passed since the battle at New Eden. The human colony had grown stronger with better defenses and more settlers. The Zalari Empire had signed a peace treaty with Earth and had not troubled any human world since. Lisa Collins stood outside the great doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Today was an important day. After months of debate and study, the Council had called a special meeting about Earth's status. Nervous? Frank Martinez asked, standing beside her in his formal uniform. A little, Lisa admitted. They could still decide to remove us from the Council. The doors opened and a young aide appeared. Ambassador Collins, the Council is ready. Lisa and Frank walked into the chamber. It was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. In the center, the 7 high counselors sat on their raised platform. Lisa was surprised to see that every council member was standing. This was a gesture of respect usually reserved only for the oldest member species. High Counselor Thelmar spoke first. Ambassador Collins, welcome. The Council has reached a decision about Earth's status. Lisa stood tall, ready for whatever came next. After careful consideration of recent events and a thorough study of human history, the Council has decided to reclassify Earth. A murmur ran through the chamber. Reclassification was extremely rare. Most species remained in their assigned categories for thousands of years. Earth will no longer be classified as a Category 3 developing species, Thelmar continued. Effective immediately, Earth is granted full membership rights, with all restrictions removed. Lisa could hardly believe what she was hearing. Full membership usually took at least a century to achieve. High Counselor, she said carefully. Earth appreciates this honor. But may I ask why the Council has made this decision? Thelmar's 6 eyes blinked slowly. We have committed a grave error in our assessment of humanity, Ambassador Collins. We mistook your youth for naivety, your adaptability for simplicity, your readiness for aggression. Krelva, the Council archivist, stepped forward with a data tablet. With the Council's permission, I have prepared a report on human history and its implications for the galaxy. On the large screens around the chamber, images of Earth appeared. They showed ancient battles, world wars, and modern conflicts. But they also showed the rebuilding after wars, peace conferences, and humanitarian missions. Humans have something most Council species have forgotten, Krelva explained. The understanding that peace is not just the absence of conflict. It is something that must be built and sometimes defended. The screen showed the battle at New Eden. The human ships moved with precision, disabling Zalari vessels without destroying them when possible, targeting weapon systems instead of life support. Even in battle, humans showed restraint, Krelva noted. They could have destroyed the Zalari fleet but chose to minimize casualties. High Counselor Thelmar nodded. Ambassador Collins, humanity brings a perspective the Council needs. For too long we have assumed that peace will maintain itself. We have forgotten that sometimes strength is needed to protect the peaceful. Lisa was stunned. This was not at all what she had expected. There is more, Thelmar continued. The Council has approved the creation of a new security force, a rapid response team that can protect Council worlds from threats like the Zalari. And who will lead this force? Lisa asked, already guessing the answer. We ask that Earth provide leadership and training, Thelmar said. No other species in the Council has your experience in defensive operations. After the meeting, Lisa walked back to her office with Frank. They were both quiet, processing what had happened. So, Frank finally said, we went from being scolded as primitives to being asked to protect the entire Council in 1 year. Lisa smiled. They finally read our history. And they're not afraid of us? I think they are, a little, Lisa admitted. But they also respect us now. That's progress. In her office, Lisa found Krelva waiting. Ambassador Collins, he said, standing. I wanted to thank you personally. For what? For showing us our blind spot, the archivist replied. The council has existed for 50,000 years, but we had forgotten something important. Peace must sometimes be defended. Lisa nodded. It's a lesson humans learned the hard way. There is something else you should know, Krelva said. Many species are now studying human history with great interest. They are learning about your art, your music, your literature, not just your wars. I'm glad to hear that. Krelva hesitated. Some council members are still concerned. They worry that humans might become too powerful too quickly. What do you think? Lisa asked. I think, Krelva said slowly, that if humans wanted to conquer rather than cooperate, you would have responded differently to the Zalari. You would have destroyed their fleet, not disabled it. You would have demanded territory, not just peace. After Krelva left, Lisa sat down at her desk and began writing a message to Earth. She needed to explain this amazing turn of events to the world leaders. As she wrote, she thought about humanity's long, violent history. For thousands of years, humans had fought each other over land, resources, and ideas. They had developed terrible weapons and caused great suffering, but they had also learned from each war. They had built institutions to prevent conflicts. They had created art that celebrated peace. They had sent aid to disaster areas and helped former enemies rebuild. The Galactic Council had finally understood what made humans unique. Not their capacity for violence, but their ability to learn from it. Not their skill at making weapons, but their desire to someday put those weapons away for good. 6 months later, Lisa stood on the bridge of the USS Peacekeeper, the flagship of the new Council Defense Force. The ship was crewed by humans and aliens working side by side. They were patrolling the borders of Council space, ensuring that all member worlds were protected. Captain Frank Martinez, now in command of the fleet, stood beside her. Who would have thought, he said. A year ago they called us primitives, now they want us to teach them how to defend themselves. They needed us, Lisa replied. Just as we need them. We bring different strengths to the Alliance. On the main screen, dozens of ships from different species flew in formation. It was the first joint training exercise of the Council Defense Force. You know, Frank said, there's an old Earth saying that seems appropriate. Si vis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war, Lisa translated. Yes, that fits, but I prefer another old saying. The strong are those who can put their strength away. Frank nodded. Maybe someday the galaxy will be peaceful enough that we can do that. That's the goal, Lisa said. But until then, we'll help the Council protect what they've built. As the fleet moved through space, Lisa thought about how differently things might have gone if the Galactic Council had read human history from the beginning. They might have understood humans better. They might have treated Earth with more respect. But perhaps it was better this way. The Council had learned an important lesson, and Earth had gained powerful allies. Together, they were stronger than either would have been alone. The Galactic Council's big mistake had turned into an opportunity for both humans and aliens to grow and learn from each other. Sometimes, Lisa reflected, mistakes lead to better understanding in the end, and understanding was the first step toward true peace.